So you've probably been wondering, should you get some kind of lever espresso machine, maybe the Flair 58, or perhaps even an old school Le Pavoni to get into that whole pressure profiling thing that all the cool kids talk about? Well, what if I told you that you can do all that for just around $100 and you don't even have to worry about a lot of the headaches that come with retro lever machines? That's right, you just need the very powerful plastic of the DeLonghi espresso maker. The model I have here next to me is called the DeLonghi Stilosa, and the exact type of the model is the number 230 BK. And this is important because Stilosa 230 BK is the more pro version, because it has a real steam wand and it doesn't come with a pressurized basket, it comes with a real basket. I'm saying pro in quotes because it's not really a professional machine. It's not that typical kind of espresso machine with training wheels version that usually is what's offered at this price range. The Panarello steam wand and pressurized basket is something DeLonghi includes in a lot of models because they don't have confidence in the user. But I will say, if you're watching this channel, chances are you probably don't need it and you can make real espresso. As far as I know, you can get both the 230 and the 260 version in Europe and Asia, whereas in the US you can only get that annoying version with the Panarello steam wand and the pressurized basket. On the flip side, the Stilosa is a little bit cheaper in the US. I think it's sold for around $85 over there. And in Europe and Asia, it's closer to $110. This is a 51mm size portafilter, and that makes it very easy to find baskets, other portafilters, or special accessories like tampers and so on. The construction itself is actually pretty cool. You have this tiny little 150 milliliter boiler, and it's sitting right on top of the brew head, so it will get very hot, and that's good because when you're making espresso you want everything to be nice and heated up to the same temperature. I measured the flow rate to about 180 mils per minute, which is on the slower side. On the other hand, the pump is a 15 bar pump, so it's probably good to have it counterbalanced by a slightly slower flow so we can extend the shots a little bit. The dispersion screen itself is actually surprisingly nice. It looks really cute when you have these small droplets coming out. The next cool thing is either a bug or a feature, depending on who you ask. On more expensive espresso machines, you have a three-way solenoid valve that will release the pressure and the brew water from the puck after you finish the shot. And that means that you can just pull out the portafilter right away and knock out the puck, and it will be reasonably dry. But on this one here, because it's so cheap, you don't have this kind of valve. So that means if you just take the portafilter away after you brewed the shot, there will still be some pressure inside the brew head. So you have to wait a little bit for the pressure to be released. But the good thing about this is that when you don't have this valve, then you can turn the machine on and off. That means that you won't disturb the puck when you turn it off, as you would with most other machines. So this pressure will build up to a certain degree and then slowly release through the basket and the coffee. So just because the pump is set to a certain maximum pressure, it doesn't have to be static. On the other hand, if you are just a little bit creative, then you can use it to create your own pressure profile. You could of course say that this is not real pressure profiling, because you can't actually see, you don't have a pressure gauge, so you can't see what the exact pressure is in the group head. But on the other hand, this is actually quite similar to how a lot of manual espresso makers operate. For example, the Pavoni behind me, it doesn't have a pressure gauge, so in theory it's kind of a similar situation that's going on. The interesting thing here is that sometimes when people talk about pressure profiling, it's like they have this idea that there's some magic going on, some kind of combination of pressure and flow can really give you access to a new dimension. But there's also another school of thought, and that is that there are certain elements in pressure profiling that are really important. So the first part is pre-infusion. When you have pre-infusion, that means that you can grind finer, and of course that will help with extraction, and it will kind of reduce the risk of channeling. Then the next part of the shot, you want to hit your peak pressure, and then from there you kind of want to ramp it down and hit the target weight. There are different theories about why pre-infusion and ramp down work so well, but the bottom line is that this is just one of the most popular pressure profiles, and it also mimics how a lever espresso shot is pulled. Well, here we have the DeLonghi espresso machine for just under or around $100, and you can actually emulate this profile. Okay, but that's the theory, and now let's see how it works in practice. For this little experiment, I've upgraded the machine a little bit. So instead of using this portafilter that it comes with, I bought a bottomless one from AliExpress, and you can get this quite affordably. I think probably somewhere around 15 to 25 US dollars. And that means that I can use this 51mm Hue IMS basket, which is going to give us a really nice flow. If you're planning to buy a naked portafilter, just make sure that it has these two lugs here, because that's going to fit the Stilosa machine. And now let's get brewing. The temperature can easily be a little bit too hot, so I'm just going to flush out some water until the droplets seem a bit more even. And that's also why it's a good idea to use a puck screen. If you're a little bit worried that your machine is too hot, then it can kind of protect the integrity of the puck. Okay, and now we're just going to start the pre-infusion. So I'll turn on the machine, and then when I see the first few drops here, then I'm just going to turn it off again, and then we're going to wait. Okay, and now we're seeing a little bit, few drops. Let's add a little bit more. We're just slowly building up the pressure. Now there's an even flow. I'm just going to back off a little bit. Increase pressure again. Okay, and now I'm going to ramp down just a little bit more. And now my target weight is 30 milliliters, and we're there right now. Okay, and now the water is going to continue dripping for a little bit longer because there's still pressure inside. So it's a good idea to have a separate cup that you can put under. So I got this one here at about a 1:2 ratio. So let's just try to measure the extraction and taste how the shot is. Okay, and now we got the measurement, and the TDS is 10.34. So just from a quick calculation, the extraction yield is a little bit above 20%. So I will say pretty good. And now let's try to taste it. Woo. Yeah, just a very full, strong shot. Under normal circumstances, I would let it run a little bit longer to dilute it a bit more, but it is a very well extracted shot. Steaming performance, should we just do a little really quick test and see how well it works? Okay, now I'm gonna flick it over into steam mode, and I know it takes about 35 seconds for it to get up to steaming temperature. So I think you can probably steam a little bit before this OK light comes on. Okay, I gotta be honest, the single tip steam one is pretty difficult to control, but it actually hits the milk with a lot of power. So I think if you practice enough, you can probably get good results. Maybe you just need to groom the milk quite well. Let's see. It's not the prettiest cappuccino in the world, but with enough patience, perhaps someone out there can master this single tip steam wand. I will say the espresso is good. Let's try the milk coffee. Still requires a little bit of work. Milk drinks, probably not the best machine for that, but if you want a nice shot at a budget level, then I'd say it's a pretty solid option. I will say pressure profiling, I think we can put a check mark right there. You do have some capabilities. If you want to read all the nitty-gritty details about the steam performance, brew performance, then I have a review over on my website that you can check out. I'll put a link to it down below. Is it the best espresso machine under $100 US? Yeah, I think it probably is. But of course, one thing is the espresso machine, and the other very important part of the equation is the grinder. So if you're on the lookout for a new espresso grinder, I'll leave a link to one of my favorites right here, one I reviewed recently. So if you're curious about that, then click that video right here.